Hey guys, today we're doing another module for the agency course. Today I'm joined by Ben, and we're going to be talking about kind of closing deals, having sales calls, and different parts of the process when a lead comes through the pipeline, all the way kind of to close. Ben, thanks for being here. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks so much for having me on. Really excited to be a part of this for sure.
Dude, I'm pumped too. I know you run an awesome agency, and I'd love for you to kind of do a high level overview kind of like your current agency, and let's dive in after.
Yeah. So my business is pretty interesting. My name is on the business, Ben Zettler Digital, and I kind of am a hybrid between consultant, agency. What do we call it? What do I want to call myself? I haven't really decided, and ultimately that's okay. Um, you know, Part of the way that I work, and I guess the value that I bring to clients ultimately is that I am very much a hybrid between freelancer and agency.
Okay.
And in a lot of ways, the way that what I say we because I do have a team. A lot of the ways that will ultimately function is very much agency like. But I try to be super, super nimble, like when I'm working with folks, and I'm very much involved, like from a strategic perspective with the clients that I work with, both on the sales process, which we're going to talk about today, but also on the work itself. Um, the reason why I say my experience is unique and what I bring to a lot of the client work that I have is number one, I was a Shopify store owner myself for a long time. I started a sunglasses company back in 2013. It was called Brooktide Sunglasses, and it was store number 41,000 or so on Shopify. Obviously, now they have, as of this recording, somewhere around 2 million merchants. So very much before Shopify's rapid growth phase over the last 6-7 years, and was really the first domino to building my portfolio and starting to work with other brands. And it first started as a friend of a friend that needed help with advertising or needed help building a site, and they knew I had a business. And then Shopify invited me to their partner program, and then to the experts program, and then Shopify Plus to the consulting partners program, and all the other things that go with it that we'll talk about. But then even beyond that, we were just talking about it before we hit record here, that I used to work for a large-scale e-commerce company centered around sports memorabilia, a company called Steiner Sports, which is the largest autographed sports memorabilia provider in the world. And there I was the company's first full-time hire dedicated to social and digital marketing. And eventually my role grew into overseeing all aspects of e-commerce for the company. And when I work with clients, like that's an interesting perspective that I can bring to the table, that I've worked with, worked on the brand side of things in addition to starting my own business and then building that into what it ultimately is today, which is, I know, a very long-winded answer to an introductory question, but today there's 3 key areas of service where we'll typically work with folks. So one being the optimization and setup of Shopify websites and conversion rate optimization and custom dev work. Retention, email, text marketing, very much in your world, like with Klaviyo. Was actually the humble brag time was just named last week a Klaviyo Elite Partner. And then also on the acquisition side, I'm a Facebook business partner, so Facebook and Instagram advertising, Google advertising, and all things paid. And I mention all this and I give you the long-winded answer because there's these 3 key areas where I do typically work with folks that really, in my opinion, like, not that it's some like earth-shattering opinion, but any business needs to be sort of buttoned up in order to have success online. And that's what we try to help folks do.
I love it, man. I appreciate the context. And I think that leads us perfectly into what we want to focus on today. So let's kind of talk through the journey that you go through with these brands, kind of from the entry point. So how do people typically discover you? I know you mentioned Shopify partner program, kind of that ecosystem. You're in Klaviyo's, you're in Facebook. So how do people typically discover you? Is it from content marketing? Is it referrals? What does that look like? And then what's kind of that process and those touch points of maybe an intro call, maybe an audit, kind of all the way through close?
Sure. So it's kind of multifaceted. There's a few key areas where, for my business, where I typically get a lot of really strong leads. So, and this is not in any particular order, but one would be LinkedIn. Another would be through partner referrals. So yeah, like Shopify, Klaviyo, Recharge, like any like tools that are in the ecosystem. And then also just like general like discovery, like people that, I don't do as much content marketing as you, like you do a really excellent job at that, but I try to put some stuff out there and then people like, discover and, find on a Google search or something like that. But I mean, that's one of the key things, like depending on for anybody that is watching and taking part in this course of, what point in the journey that you are as an agency or in your business or as a freelancer, there's different things that you can do. So number one, like if you're starting off, completely raw, like you have nothing going on, you're starting a new business, you just quit your corporate job and now you want to do this because it's something you're really passionate about. Well, first and foremost, what are the things that you can control? You can control your presence online. So your LinkedIn page, first and foremost. Make sure that you are showcasing the services that you have or that you offer and your areas of expertise and certifications from any courses that you've taken and anything else that can help somebody make the decision, not to sign you or to sign with you, but to make the decision at least to contact you. To make that decision, that specific one, easier for them. Same goes for your website. Like make sure you have a website. Make sure you have information about your services, even if you don't have case studies to share. This is fairly common, for like graphic designers, let's say, where like, yeah, just make some like content that you can display, even if it wasn't for an actual client. It's a little harder in our world, like when it comes to like more tactical services. But even so, like make sure that you have something that gives the effect that you know what you're talking about, even if you don't yet have the hero case study to showcase. And that's like your baseline, very first foundational starting point of getting your name out there. Now, for the folks that are listening that aren't a little bit of a more I'll say advanced, or they're in a little bit of a further along kind of state where, maybe you are a Shopify partner, or maybe you are a Klaviyo partner, or maybe you are, you have a book of clients and you have content that you can create from that you can showcase. And that's a little bit different. I mean, just speaking from experience for my business, I have kept partnerships with other apps and software and service providers extremely close and tried to nurture those as best as possible, because they have completely changed the entire makeup of my business. So what do I mean by that? For example, like one of the reasons why I mentioned earlier, like I'm fortunate to be now a Klaviyo elite partner, and part of how that's happened is, being very much involved with their team and, trying to give feedback on the product. And, when they have a question from a merchant that's looking for assistance with something, you're trying to get those answers, even if they're not technically a client yet. Or, just showing that you can be a strategic resource to the other players that are in the space, not just the merchants that are going to hire you, because then the mutual lead sharing is unbelievable. Again, game changer for the business. Same goes for my relationship with Shopify. 9 years ago, I started my sunglasses company. About a year in, Shopify invited me to the partner program. And that was just like step one to then I was invited into the experts program. And because I was in the experts program, I was part of the beta test for Shopify's experts marketplace. So that's been a tremendous, for me, a tremendous avenue for lead generation. So like all these tools are out there. All these different avenues to theoretically get clients are out there. And they can be really tremendous for anybody's business. Now, like a lot of people might be asking, well, am I late to the game? Like is the market saturated? You put a tweet out the other day about market saturation of, is there, if the market is saturated, like, is there opportunity? I would kind of go into your boat. Like there's there is no such thing as market saturation if you can provide value in our world of agency services. I mean, but then there's like the hustle things you can do too. I mean, like the amount of DMs that I've sent to, companies on Instagram, like especially like 5-6 years ago, when like I didn't have the case studies, I didn't have my name out there, I didn't have the partner relationships, but I would say to folks like, hey, here's all the things that you could be doing right now with your website, or I just signed up for your emails and here's all the things that you're not doing. Or I'm taking a look at the ads that you're running and here's what I would do differently. Yeah, that takes time, and that like time in our world obviously is money. But especially in the early going, like that can be tremendous to try to like give some of that value up front, before someone has signed with you, so that they can understand, like that you have a certain level of expertise before they've made some sort of commitment to you. And that's like this conversation in itself is making me like think of like the things that I used to do I haven't thought about in a while, but like, yeah, like the one of my best clients who I still work with today, I first connected with 6 years ago because I sent an Instagram DM to a guy that did a t-shirt design for them. And then he introduced me to them like over like a text or something. And so like those types of things are super, super important, even though like they kind of fall outside of a like, standard sales process and things like that, but are super important to, again, to get in front of people for the first time, especially as you're starting out.
Yeah, dude, that's killer. I mean, I think that's a really thorough kind of front end of how people can get clients and kind of come through the pipeline. And the great thing about the way that you acquire clients is when Shopify or Klaviyo or whoever it might be tees up an intro, those people are going to be, there's way more social proof, right? They're going to be a warmer lead, which means they're going to close either A, for more money, and or B, a lot quicker, right? If you were to do cold outbound, and obviously cold outbound is a great strategy, and it's a great strategy, especially in the beginning, you're going to have to do a little bit more kind of tug and pull of proving yourself and adding that social proof. But the way that you're doing it is, I got to imagine it's kind of a fast track to landing and signing clients that are high quality in a fashion that doesn't take a lot of work necessarily. So what is like that next step then, right? So they come in through, a cold email, a DM, an intro, kind of a softball from Klaviyo or Shopify. What's that next step? Do you hop on a call with them? Is it someone on your team? Have you done an audit at that point? Like where does that kind of stuff happen?
So first I'll comment just on the structure of my team. And so like that kind of speaks to like what our process is. I am, lead salesperson. I'm CEO, I'm founder, I'm owner, I'm all those things. I don't have full-time employees for my group. And that's a very specific decision that I've made in terms of like just how we've structured the business, where I've got right now like 12 contractors that are all specialists in their own right in a certain area, and are, part of this gig economy that we now live in. And so it makes it easy to, I guess, in a way, insert somebody into a particular project or a particular, retain a relationship with a client. If I know, okay, this is this person's specialty and maybe they're working on 6, 7, 8 other clients, but I pay them out as a contractor, with a 1099. Because I don't want the payroll taxes. I don't want to do the whole and just the fluctuations in this, like, I've got clients certainly that I've worked with for a number of years, and others where like we're on a short-term, like 3-month thing. And then they have an in-house team that's going to take certain things on. So I think it's helpful just to have that context, because I've chosen to, again, be kind of that hybrid between full-scale agency, but really not a freelancer, but my name's on the business, but maybe I should change it. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. But I'm the salesperson. Ultimately, that's having those discussions with folks. So for me, especially as I've built it over the last few years, like it's interesting because lead generation has definitely changed, like specifically with like Shopify, for example. The way Shopify experts used to work was that it was a 1-page listing of every Shopify expert. And it was broken down if you went to a category. But it was just a running list. So, and it would, there was an algorithm that would rank you based on, like closed jobs and like responsiveness. Or there was no messaging yet, so maybe not even responsiveness, but just like closed jobs and reviews, I think. So once you got up to like the first or second position, like when someone gets there, like you get a couple of legitimate warmer leads all day, like all the time. What they would do is they'd send you to the website, to your website. So somebody would reach out on my website. They'd have their phone number entered in, because I ask for phone number. If you have a contact form on your website, ask for phone number. And I would call them right away. If I called them in like more than 2-3 minutes, that was a problem for me. And you know why? Like, and if I was on a call, I had one about an hour ago. Like somebody reached out. I was on a call and I sent a quick note like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. Like I would email you right away when I'm off calls later today. I'll give you a call." So when we're done with this, I'm calling that person. Why is that important? I mean, responsiveness is massive. Like, you know, I saw some stat the other day about like, you know, if you're something with like, if you respond within an hour, like you're X amount more likely to like, you know, close a sale or something like that. I mean, it's true. The best thing that I like to hear is when I get a contact form into my site and then I call somebody right away, that they say, "Wow, like you get an A for responsiveness," or like, "Oh my God, like I can't believe, like I just pressed send and I'm already hearing from you." Like that completely, it kind of takes their guard down. It takes the lead's guard down in terms of like, "Oh, well, I've reached out to 5 different people. I've waited a week, or I've waited a day. I've now talked to this person and that person." Like, no, you came to me, you reached out to me. Let me respond to you right away.
Yeah. One thing to interject, the fact that your name is on the business and you're the one reaching out, you know,
Right.
it shows a really good sign. A lot of times companies might take 4 hours a day, 2 or 3 days to respond. And it could be, not that there's anything wrong with it, a sales rep or someone else that's not the owner. So it looks like, okay, this guy cares. He's very responsive. He is, you know, the name and the face of the business. So I think that actually probably helps a lot as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You nailed it. You totally nailed it. That's another thing too. Like, because my name is on the business, like naturally it more so just like makes sense from a sales perspective that like I should be the one involved there. At the end of the day, like, you know, the reason why companies, you know, work with me is because they're looking for something where they can work with someone that is a bit more strategic in the sense of like, they know who they're going to be working with and they can, you know, add insight into certain things and they can, you know, really have a reliable resource. And you know what, I've gotten some of my like biggest clients, I guess, in terms of name cachet, you know, because of the structure of my business, because like I have the ability to like work with them directly, tactically, like even if some folks are working on the background. But yeah, it's been like in a way like the sort of niche that I've kind of found. But anyway, so I know I'm kind of like ranting a little bit, but to kind of get to the questions of like the process. So yeah, I mean, if you have the ability to get on the phone right away. If, you know, like I said, like have a field on your contact form on your site for phone number so that hopefully they give you phone number. And if they don't, that's fine. You know, you get an email or you got an introduction from somebody or somebody reached out on a DM or whatever it is. You know, try to shift to a call as soon as you can. Because the more that, you know, whether it's for my business or really any business, any type of agency, whatever the structure is, the quicker, I should say, that you can get on the phone with somebody, put a face to a name, put a face to a business, have the, you know, the face-to-face, where now we live in this world where you and I can be on opposite coasts and we can be doing a recording like this together. You know, get in front of people as best you can, as soon as you can. Because everybody's going to be doing their research. Everybody's reaching out to somebody else and you want to get to them to make that first impression. That's huge. I've probably won the majority of my business just because of like, not just speed, like obviously there has to be more that backs that up, but so much of my process has been like sort of predicated on, you know, getting the right foot in the door at the right time, which has been super, super important. Now, to go further down the topic though, okay, like all right, you got somebody on the phone. You got somebody like literally on the phone. You have somebody on a call, like a screen share. You have like on a video call. Then what's next? Then you have to talk through with them. What is it that they're looking for? What do they really want? Do they have an idea of what they want? Do they not know what they want? Who are they? Are they the solopreneur founder, solo operator of this brand, but it's like, now we're doing all this business and we don't necessarily know what to do. And somebody recommended I reach out, or it's a larger company and it's a 3-person e-com team and they don't have a resource to manage their ads because they're more higher level strategic thinkers, not doing the tactical day to day. Find out who they are, because that changes the conversation. And when I say find out who they are, I mean, like, what is their day to day like? What are they? Who are they as an operator within their business? What are the things that they're doing that they don't want to do anymore? What are the things that they wish they were doing as a business that they've never done before? And all of that is firepower, so to speak, to give you an understanding of what it is that you could do to win that business, and what it'll take to win that business, and what you need to put into potentially working with them. I know I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I feel like I'm going down like just like a rabbit hole of like all the different intricacies of this whole process. But are we on the right track so far?
Yeah, this is great. So to recap, right, we've talked about kind of the structure of your business, I think, which that context is important. Right, you have a little bit more of a kind of complicated setup than we do, right? All I sell is pretty much email and sometimes SMS, right? For you have the 3 kind of services, it sounds like, and you kind of have like this different model where it sounds like in some regard, you're kind of like this outsourced or interim CMO of sorts on the kind of the strategy consulting side. And then you also have the option when and where it makes sense to actually bring in kind of firepower or manpower through the 12, I think you said, contractors, right? Kind of scaling people up and back. So we talked about that. We talked about kind of how you acquire business and leads, which was super helpful. And then so far, kind of we've talked about, right, getting people on the phone. You, the person, are doing it. You're doing it really quickly, right? That first impression is there. So you're on the call. You're kind of learning about their business. What are their needs? How quickly are they looking to turn around? Maybe what's their budget and whatnot. So kind of from there, right, I guess kind of some of the other steps are like, do you do like a second call where you kind of do like a live audit? Do you submit them kind of a proposal and pricing? What's the turnaround time kind of in onboarding? Like any of those things, and then we can kind of wrap up.
Yeah, I try to gauge each situation, relative to like what I'm ultimately like willing to do for free for, a potential client. So it's going to vary for everybody at like whatever point in your business that you are. If you're in a situation where comfortably you have, clients, then you're not like starving for business, but you're looking to grow the business. Like, of course you're going to be less likely to, do work for free than if like you're really trying to establish the business and trying to gain new clients. But I think, it's the reason why I generally don't book hour-long like meetings unless I'm being paid for it, because you can accomplish anything in an hour-long meeting in probably about 20 minutes, and you can accomplish anything in a half-hour meeting probably in about 7 minutes. I said 7 to be fancy, like 10 minutes, whatever. But that's the thing. Like, you should be able to showcase your value as a potential service provider to that business fairly quickly. And there's different types of calls that you'll have, different types of introductions to folks. So I just had one yesterday. This person just wanted to ask me questions right away, want to know this, and this, and didn't want any fluff, like just literally answer my question, give like, how many people on your team? This many. Like, what do you charge? This much. Like, that's what they wanted. Okay. Everybody's different. And other calls, you might do the majority of the talking, though it's always good to really ask questions and to get the potential client talking, so that you can try to get as much information as possible, so that you can then move to a phase of proposal. and putting a proposal together and something that does speak to the specific needs of that business, but also refining something that you don't have to write, like some elongated document specific to every single lead that you get every single time, because that would be crazy. But yeah, like, you can, I offer like audits and things as a paid service. What I find is that if I can demonstrate my expertise and value or potential value to a merchant, within a 20-30 minute call, then, they should be able to pay for, something a little bit deeper and more strategic. Now, there are situations where, like, maybe there's other stakeholders on their team that are looking to have a little bit of a deeper discussion. It's, in theory, going to be potentially a larger piece of business. So then, yeah, we'll take those calls. Yeah, I mean, it just kind of comes down to, in a way, like what we were talking about before of, like the, on the side of like just the generation of those leads, of like reaching out to folks and saying like, hey, you could do this, and this. Like, I kind of do that on my first call. I try to get right into it right away. Like, that's why I try to get on the video call. Like, hey, I'm going to share my screen. I want to show you what I'm looking at on your site. Like, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this. A lot of times also, like, folks have an idea of what they want, and they're very specific with what they want, especially if they're a little bit more of a mature business. So, just have them, hey, what is it that you're looking for? What do you need with the site? What needs to be changed? What are you currently running? Let us quote a project for like doing that for you after we've had that sort of conversation to learn a little bit more about each other.
I love it. And the last question I have to kind of round this out, and this is kind of actually taking a few steps backward, is how do you pre-qualify, right? So, a lead comes in from Shopify, from Klaviyo, from however people found you, content referral. I know obviously on the form that you have, you're asking for SMS. Are you asking for like website, list size if they're potentially an email, budget, revenue? Like, how are you pre-qualifying so that way you don't end up on a call with someone that maybe just wants to pick your brain and either can't afford to hire you or doesn't want to hire you and kind of just shopping around? How do you pre-qualify? Just so that way, kind of set that scene.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. With the changes to Shopify's Experts Marketplace, like if anybody that's in the course is part of that, that has changed pretty significantly over the last several years. So when I was part of the beta for that, there's less experts involved. They were only serving it to certain merchants. So you were getting, in theory, like more legitimate leads. And it was like a fairly efficient process. Like somebody reached out, like you could probably win like a quarter to a half of that business. Now it is like completely different. So this is just one example, but like, specific to Experts Marketplace, but I'll answer the question more generally in a second. Experts Marketplace now, and I'm going to say this, Shopify knows this. So like I can say this, the leads are really bad. Like the quality of leads, it's just few and far between when you get something that's really legitimate, where it's not someone that is like just some random merchant that's set up an Orbello drop shipping store that has spent $100 and they have $50 to spend with you. Like that happens all the time. Like you can see those pretty clearly. But those are like, since they're clear, like you can just kind of like, you never even have to talk to that person. Now the real qualifiers of trying to understand if like, okay, they have a legitimate business, they have a Klaviyo presence, or maybe they're on MailChimp and maybe we want to talk about potentially migrating them to Klaviyo, or, they have a theme, but it's not on OS 2.0. So we need to, think about a theme upgrade, or a little bit more of a mature business. They need some customizations done, like, getting to the point of understanding certainly budget is always like a tough question for sure. I'm pretty forward. So like, I'll ask folks on most first calls, like, what's your budget? Like, and then I say, like, this is what I say. I say, have you given any thought to like what you're looking to spend for this? This is not a trick question. I'm happy to share my pricing, and then see what they say. And if they tell you a number, great. And if they're like, and this happens too, like, I don't know. I'd much rather you tell me what you charge, and then I'll tell them what I charge. Because it really isn't a trick question. I'm trying to know right then and there if it's worth us going down this road. Because if you tell me like, yeah, we want a custom built site and we need an API integration to our inventory and fulfillment that doesn't exist already and that needs to be built, and we want you to set up and run our Klaviyo monthly and run our advertising. Okay, how much can you spend? $1,000. Well, then it's not going to work. It's just clearly not going to work. So yeah, like trying to just get clarity with people and just being as honest as you can. And that's the whole thing too. Like you get on a call, you can be a face, you can like just show you're a human, then people tell you anything. And so, yeah, the qualification is super interesting. I mean, let's say, for example, like to go a different route, like it's not always about money necessarily. Like if, in theory, like somebody's got a budget to spend and, it's kind of within, what we roughly charge for X service, I can also tell right away if it's somebody I want to work with or not work with, based on the tone of a conversation. That's a decision that as a leader within an agency, you have to also be prepared to make. Because at the end of the day, if things are growing for you, you don't want to be bogged down by somebody, frankly, that's just going to suck your time, because your time is your most valuable asset. It will always be your most valuable asset. And you want to be compensated appropriately for that asset. If it's somebody that you can tell right off the bat is just already counting, like pinching pennies and already counting, just they're already like, it's not working out. Like you can already tell it's not working out and you haven't even sent them a proposal yet. Then that's a situation where you just have to say, look, I very much appreciate the time today. I don't think I'm the best service provider for you, but here are some places where you can go to find, other folks that might be a better fit. We've all, I think, had situations probably where, you've gotten into bed, so to speak, with a client that, clearly like it's just not going to work. And then it goes down the road and lo and behold, it doesn't work, for, whatever variety of reasons. So that's another piece. And then two, also forgetting they may be great. They may be excellent, excellent to work with, really communicative, they have budget, and all those things. But, making sure that from a services perspective, it's also a right fit. Not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Like if somebody says, we really want help with Klaviyo but we want to do the design, and okay, that's fine. We take on clients where we're just literally handling Klaviyo and you give us here's your email draft. We handle everything else. Yeah, but and we only want it to go to this group of users, and then we'll say, well, here's what we recommend. We probably don't want to do that, and here's why. No, but we want to do, and not that they're being difficult, but it's just where it just doesn't mesh, in terms of what you typically offer as a service, or you're on a retainer with somebody and then every week they're starting to ask you questions about well, can you do this on Shopify, and can you do this, and can you update that on the site, and are you going to answer my live chats, and just make sure, again, rabbit hole, right? Make sure that as you're either pitching a client or once you've signed and you're starting to work with them and get used to each other and build that relationship, that up front, when you're going through that proposal process, when you're going through that onboarding process, when you're going through that contracting phase, that you are very clear on the things that you will do, the things that you will not do. Because if you're clear, then you will have much more clarity on what clients are the right fit. Because they'll tell you if something doesn't work for them, and you'll be able to see all those things pretty clearly up front in terms of just general qualification. What I find in my world, there's very few clients that I'm necessarily or potential clients that I'm necessarily rejecting, because the reason why Shopify Plus created a consulting partners arm to their partner program, that I'm, again, very fortunate to be a part of that too, is because there's, company ABC that is looking for something more than entry-level guidance, but they're not necessarily looking to spend $250,000 with a large-scale agency for a new website, but Previously, Shopify Plus only recognized large scale agencies and app developers. I mention all this because like in terms of my personal like service model and how we work is like, I work with merchants that maybe they only do 20 grand a month, or maybe they do $2 million a month. It really depends. And I can sort of modify how I'm working with folks, according to that. Like the majority of clients we work with, it is more tactical in nature, and we're, on a management retainer for X, Y, and Z. But if it's a merchant that isn't necessarily, it's a side business for them or something, like somebody wants to book a session with me, then that's a good time. Like if you have an alternative, and this is the point that I'm really getting to, like, let's say like your typical service model is, not necessarily a fit for somebody, but in theory, like they could benefit from your knowledge and the things that like charge for a call, charge for getting on the phone. I've started to do that more and more lately. I just had 2 today, where it's just businesses that, grand scheme, like can't afford our standard services. But if you can get on the phone with me as a Shopify expert and partner and like, all the credentials, whatever, but it's kept a little bit more affordable in the sense of like, now you have to go self-implement from this advice that I give you. Then, that's been a nice little piece of the business for me. Look, it's different for every organization. Folks that are in my world, more like kind of face to the business type of thing, it'll work better. But that's another way that like you can, shift a potential client from like this idea that they're going to hire someone for X, Y, and Z for only X amount of money, but maybe they would consider something else as an alternative.
Dude, Ben, this was incredible. Thank you so much for the time, the generosity, the wisdom. I really appreciate it. The last 2 things. What's your website URL so people can connect with you or find you, hit you up? And then what's your best social? What's your handle on Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever you want to plug?
Yep. So website is just my name, Ben Zettler, BenZettler.com. And then all of my social, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn is all at Ben Zettler. Very simple.
Amazing. Thank you so much, man.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course.